and the number one team gets a bye, we can't have that. But they're doing this. That seems dumb.
I think,
especially with if you want to rest
people. I think in theory, really, it just gives the NFL owners added revenue opportunities. And because of the way they're situating it with essentially cutting away the fourth preseason game, which was already like a second and third string game anyways that nobody cared about, that cost the same as regular games for fans, they essentially just restructured it. But the thing is that 17th week, if you're out, like it's pretty much a throwaway game anyways. And if you're in, it's pretty much a throwaway game anyways.
You're trying not to get hurt.
So essentially,
change fantasy football?
Essentially, they just took that throwaway game from the week 4 and pushed it back to the end of the week.
Yeah.
To give teams who, might still be in the thick of things an extra week to kind of sort themselves out. But I think the bigger thing is taking away that second bye, because now you pretty much just have that one elite team and everybody else. So everyone's going to be trying to fight to get that be that number one elite team. So in theory, if all those top 3 teams are close, everyone's going to be playing their starters. It's going to be a meaningful game in week 17. If not, if there's only one team that's 15-0 and everybody else is 13-3, then it's just going to be a matter of who do you want to see? So I don't really know how it's going to play out.
How does that change fantasy football even?
Well, not just fantasy football, but the record books. I mean, they haven't changed the length of regular season games since what? Marino? So like the late 70s, 80s?
That's what I'm saying. Historically, it's going to be a weirder situation.
Because players are already putting up ungodly stats in terms of passing and receiving yards and really even tackles.
Not as much as interceptions, but let's say you look at suspensions. Or let's say somebody gets busted for having, I don't know, just a little bit too much THC in their system, but they're coming back from injury. So they're suspended for that crucial game. Now there's a lot of things that you can't even foresee that come into play here. And again,
I'm not sure what you mean.
Okay.
What does the suspension have to do with that?
I'm just saying any thing could happen. Some random thing could happen, and it could involve, I don't know, the new policies around THC and testing. Somebody could fail a drug test.
The thing that I'm saying though,
and it gets swept under the rug.
But what I'm saying though is the way they've structured it. The reason why I said I brought up the preseason is they're not changing the timing of the season.
Yeah,
they're just restructuring it. So I don't think that really changes anything in terms of suspensions. But suspension happens, it happens. Either way, you're not prepared for it. So
I would say if you're not going to bump it up to at least 49% revenue, you said it was what, 47?
48.5.
48.5?
47.5 next year. 47 next year. 48.5 the following year when they move up to 17 games. If they don't move to 17 games, it would just be 48.
If it's not a 50-50 split, what's the point at this rate? Who do you think is a bigger draw? The Chiefs ownership or Pat Mahomes? What are you paying to see? Pat Mahomes, the player, or the ownership group?
But that's the thing with this
you're
game,
going to the stadium.
With this game specifically, yes, you're going to see Pat Mahomes, but how many Pat Mahomes are there?
Okay, there's not a Pat
across
Mahomes.
The whole league.
Okay,
across the whole league.
That's a fair question.
So how many players?
But there's so many different kinds of stars that it's
But in general, how many people are really you're only going to see across the National Football League?
If you're a fan,
Mahomes, okay,
Jackson,
McCaffrey, okay, Zeke, Cam up until this year. So
DeAndre Hopkins.
Are
you sure about that?
Because he has some 90-yard games, 80-yard games.
I mean, that's because he's getting triple teamed and
I know I'm not knocking his play, but I'm just saying I think
People
I don't think
Watt.
I think Texans fans are going to see the Texans. I don't think they're going to see DeAndre Hopkins.
Are you sure? We're going to have to agree to disagree on that one.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to see DeAndre Hopkins.
I think they are.
Because if they were, he wouldn't have gotten snubbed from all the things he's gotten snubbed across his whole entire career. Like,
yeah, but he also
that man's like probably one of the most disrespected elite players like ever.
Because he doesn't score a lot of touchdowns.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't feel like people are going specifically to see him. They're going to see the Texans, and he's a draw for sure, but they're not going just for that. Pat Mahomes, you could go just for that. As a Raiders fan, like,
if
it would be
take out
worth it just to go see
DeAndre Hopkins, you have who do you have Deshaun Watson throwing to? If you don't have DeAndre Hopkins,
that's not my point though. I'm just talking about superstar, megastar appeal.
He's a megastar.
How many people even know what DeAndre Hopkins looks like?
A lot.
You think people would spot out at DeAndre Hopkins on the street outside of Houston?
Yeah.
No, you don't even believe that. You didn't even say that like you believe that.
Like 70%.
Like there's probably diehard Clemson 70%. Fans who wouldn't even know DeAndre Hopkins.
What? Now you're just being sacrilegious to Clemson fans.
In his, like, without shoulder pads, just strolling around.
Okay, we can say the same thing about Christian McCaffrey.
But people are going to see him because he's like a ridiculous share of their offense.
And he's a white running back who's like one of the best running backs in the league. And how many white running backs you can
I'm just saying
about.
In terms of star power.
But he's on a trash team. The Panthers are a trash team.
But that's also
Hopkins is like a
but what I'm telling
99.
Honestly, this argument's irrelevant. The point is there's not a lot of there aren't 32 stars, period, across the league.
What?
There aren't 32 superstars that are paying for entire teams.
Okay, when you put it like that, I get it.
That's what I'm saying.
But as far as jersey sales,
but even with all that, even with jersey sales, even with all that, like this league's turnover is so high that Pat Mahomes, anything could happen to him. Anything could happen to any star. So it's like
they moved past Brady.
That's the hard part with these negotiations because like you're right. Like people aren't going to see the ownership. But they are going to see the brand and the lineage and the legacy.
Like they get tricked into
and the legacy that is the brands that are the NFL.
I think they just get tricked into, and Shannon Sharp kind of touched on this when he was talking about how Emmitt Smith was pocket watching Dak Prescott, which he totally is, and he's been doing that a while. Some of these older cats you just can't really trust. But like, if you have like the veterans understand security, financial security, taking care of our bodies, making sure things are done right. That's why when you talked about Sherman telling Adams, like, yo, text me. Because a lot of these cats don't realize, like, bro, you're not going to be Superman forever. Like, you need to be able to take care of yourself and your families. And we've all can agree that the NFL Players Union is the weakest union out of all the sports. Not even close. And the fact that y'all caved the way you did on the last CBA, like, you have to draw a line in the sand somewhere.
But that's the thing is you have to literally draw that line in the sand. Like, you literally need to be willing to pick it and lock out.
And a lot of guys aren't.
And after the season that the NFL just had where they were down for 3 years and now they're up and everybody's business is booming, everybody's personal brands are popping, like, the NFL is $1 billion business for everybody. Nobody wants to lock that out. Especially when you got these other leagues that are banking on that precise scenario where the NFL doesn't. Because the issue is they've been talking about 50-50 revenue share. Specifically Sherman, he's been talking about it for about 3 years now. They were at 46 or 47. I think it might have been 46 or 47. I think it's 46. So you cut the difference, you get to 48. You get to 48 and a half. They give you that extra 0.5% in good faith. That's a solid deal. Like, that's a fair deal. Now, in your case, what you're saying is the last deal was so bad, things need to be made up for that, which I can understand. So maybe you get that 49%. But that's why I think it's a kicker that it's a 10-year deal, because
they're gonna get screwed about year 5.
If you take year 5, if you take a 5-year deal at 48.5,
that's a good
I'm
deal.
cool with that.
That's
then you can get
deal.
to 50 in 5 years.
Exactly.
Which is fine. But you're talking about being at 48.5 for 10 years, and then from there,
that's
trying to jump to
careers.
50. Yeah, so you're talking about a whole new generation of players.
Mahomes will be in his 13th year if he's even still playing.
So, I mean, yeah, and that's what makes it challenging, because it's like, yeah, obviously, you know, the players do the bulk of the work. They should get their fair share of the plate.
They should get at least 50% of everything.
But the way the pie has been cut, it's already been cut so bad that you can't really make up for everything unless you're willing to make ultimate sacrifice, which I'm not sure a lot of guys are.
They're not, and that's what's frustrating. That's why when I look at college football and I say they need to be paid, because I know if you don't get paid in college and you don't get paid in the pros, then you're just a regular cat out here like the rest of us.
Not really, though.
If they don't think about it. I'm talking about the average, not the smart ones. The average.
I'm telling you,
average.
I know those people. Like,
yeah,
you're right. They are regular. They are regular people in the sense
they
of
have like more money saved
regular,
up.
but at the same time, they're also not, because it's like even just that added punch of being able to say I'm a former NFL player, I'm a former this.
It holds weight.
It holds weight, and especially
but guess
getting
what?
into those rooms, getting those connections.
That's what you're owed
for free.
For being in that fraternity, that's what you're owed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree.
But that's what I'm saying. You and I aren't in that fraternity.
Yeah,
the average person
not.
isn't in that fraternity. So we can't even claim those benefits. If you don't even want to give them those benefits to begin with, it's like, well, what are we doing? If you're not going to fight for 50-50, like, I don't know what union caves this much and concedes this much. Like, was this your grand plan to get to 48% based off the last CBA? Because if it was, boy, you failed.
Well, the thing that makes it hard
and
is
you got to look at the older guys who have been around. You got Eric Winston. Like, there's cats like Kevin Mawai. You could say he got blackballed out of the league for being NFL.
Okay, but what I'm
president.
saying is, like, who's going to be the people that lock out? Because it's not going to be the top end guys who are already getting their guaranteed money, who are going to get their guaranteed money.
It's the rookies
who are going to get
the lifetime roster special teams guys.
And it's not even them, because those guys will go to the XFL
and probably stars
and play for $100,000, or if anything, they have that talent of all those other leagues to pull in to a replacements scenario. So that's why it's like
leagues like the XFL
it's hard.
Can build stars out of like bottom feeder, like the last man on the roster.
But that's what I'm saying is
it's
hard. Like who's gonna actually walk out and lead that charge?
No, it should be a group effort if like your union is.
But
serious
that's what I'm
about
saying is where's that group going to come from? Because we saw even with the players, we saw that even with the Players Coalition. You see, like,
when money gets involved, there's a lot. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people.
It's self-preservation.
Not even that. It's a lot of people who are just looking for the right moment to screw you. And that's their form of self-preservation.
Not even just that, but it's just self-preservation in its truest form. It's like
that kicks in altogether.
Why are you going to give up the money you're going to make next year and the year before so that everybody over this next 10 years can eat? Like, it's easy for us to sit on that moral high ground and be like, yeah, you should, because one, it makes sense. Two, it's what you're owed. Three, it's what all these other people built.
Unions are dying anyway.
But those people, for themselves, aren't thinking like that. They're not thinking like, you know what, I got to sit out this next year, this next 2 years to help these guys make money over this next decade.